All right. We're live.
Awesome.
We are live. Dave, you look blurry to me. I think is it my
What have
connection
you
or
been
yours?
drinking?
Water. It's hot out. It's hot out today. I know.
All
It's
right.
5 o'clock
Maybe
now
it's
though.
just steamy because I don't feel blurry. I feel
You don't
I feel
you don't feel
pretty.
blurry?
No, I feel like I've got sharp contrast today.
Wow. Then you haven't had your glass of wine, your daily glass of red wine yet. I'm sure that's coming
I'm
later.
working on it a little bit later. A little bit later.
All right. Well, welcome back, guys. This is another dVIN AMA Ask Me Anything. So be sure to pop your questions into the comments if you're watching this live. Our amazing producer, Maureen, in the background will let us know if anything new comes in. We will also be monitoring the chats. But we do have some questions that have been piling up over the last 2 weeks since our last AMA.
I have
So
not
let's.
seen the questions.
Oh, well,
You're
good.
supposed to
Then let
say
me
that.
throw the
I've
first
been
one at
I've
you.
been listening to a lot of AMAs where like the host comes in and says, "I have not seen these questions in advance," and I don't know why that's important. Like
This is a
someone's
disclosure.
gonna send a gotcha, but anyways, it's funny.
Wow. Well, then first of all, now I don't know whether or not I can believe you or not if you haven't seen them or if this is scripted,
Haven't
Dave.
seen them.
I,
Haven't
I
seen
do.
them. Didn't ask. Was too busy actually. It's been a busy day.
Too busy what? Building something like the infrastructure for the entire luxury wine industry on chain?
Yes,
Okay.
that and um I'm not sure what else. That and yeah. Well, we just had a really interesting, amazing. We had a board meeting for the Bhutan Wine Company, and that was fun. That was fun. Just finished that. That's why I'm a couple of minutes late.
Oh, okay, cool. So I haven't even been. So look, this is like real. I mean, I don't know if you're going to dish any of it out, but like I want an update. I know that our
They're
Bhutan trip,
planting new vineyards in 2 weeks.
where?
So Mike and
East?
Ann leave tonight to head back to Bhutan, and in 2 weeks they're planting some new vineyards in the east. Yeah, they've
Oh
and
my God.
they've arranged. We're getting some footage of it, but they arranged the monks are going to come and bless the land. They're going to come and bless the plants before they go in the water. It's quite a thing when they plant new vineyards in Bhutan. It's like it's pretty amazing when you think about like Bhutan being such an agrarian culture, and obviously so much like so steeped in Buddhism. Like it's kind of amazing how they treat agriculture. We were talking about wasps today, and they were saying like, well, you can't really kill the wasps because it's really a problem to kill the wasps unless, as it turns out, well, so I'll tell you two fun things. So the wasps are called um, seven sting wasps because if a cow gets stung 7 times, it dies. So apparently, pretty
Yeah.
strong wasps, and which I didn't
That's
realize when I was there because I was there with Penelope, and she was like shooing away the wasps. And had I known that 7 stings kills a cow, I probably would have kept her away from it a little more.
Yeah,
But
by
the
the
other thing
way,
is,
wait, hold it. Can you remember if I interrupt you? You will. You will.
uh,
Dave has a super brain. We were there harvesting a couple times, and these wasps that Dave's talking about are massive. They're like this big, and they just eat through the grapes. Like that's not a thing. In case you didn't know, wasps don't break through the skin of a grape. They will come and like bees and wasps will eat the fruit from inside the grape once something else has already punctured the skin. But usually they don't just bite into the fruit. These wasps bite straight into the fruit. That doesn't happen anywhere else that I'm aware of. They're massive. They're beasts. Carry on.
and it's a problem, right? Because in Buddhist culture, you're not allowed to just kill things. Like Penelope, my daughter, like did some research and came back and said we should plant mint trees and like or mint plants. And then they were like, well, but if we plant mint as the cover crop, mint takes a lot of water. And she was like, well, don't plant it as a cover crop, just put it in pots. And like, you know, there were botanists. We were there with botanists. We're like, oh yeah, I guess we could do that. That's a good idea to my 12-year-old daughter. Um, but yeah, lots of wasps. But what we found out is that you can't kill the wasps to kill them, but you can harvest the wasps, and they are a huge delicacy in
What are
Bhutan,
you
in
talking
high
about?
end Bhutanese restaurants.
Yeah, but you can't
So
kill things and eat them in Bhutan. You can have
you
things killed
can
outside the country and bring them in and
you
eat them.
you you can harvest wasps.
What? What does
Yeah,
that even mean? How do you harvest wasps?
don't know.
I'm not
these
going to try
these these
harvesting the
these
killer
kind
wasp.
of these mystic Eastern cultures, like, I don't know, maybe wasps are not considered, maybe it's only mammals that you can't kill.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know the
Oh
answer to the
yeah,
question.
you can fish. But it's
You
very
can fish.
you can fish in Bhutan. Hmm.
Yeah, and what about birds? Oh, birds, I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. My point is this: they figured out a solution to the wasps, and it's you eat them. That's the solution. You eat them.
Yeah, I'm not going to harvest any wasps when I go to Bhutan this year. I'm going to
Okay.
avoid harvesting wasps as best I
Okay.
can. As best I can. And if I don't come back, it wasn't the monkeys, I would say. If I don't come back, it was either the cobras or the killer wasps. There's a few things to keep an eye out for in Bhutan in the vineyards. It wouldn't
I
be an
love it.
adventure any other way, and we can say that because the trip's full. We've taken all our deposits. We are ready to rock, and all of those who are coming with us, don't worry, you're not going to get stung by a killer wasp. I can't promise that you're not going to, but you're probably not going to. Great. Okay, sign this waiver and let's go. So I'm going to throw one of the questions at you, Dave, that you haven't seen yet because we are 10 minutes into the AMA and so far we haven't asked us anything. So curious how provenance works on chain for tokenized wine. Somebody is curious. I don't know who it is. I don't see the who asked this, but someone is curious about how provenance works on chain for tokenized wine and wants the details.
Sure. So look, we think we've kind of divided into a three-part strategy. Um, and some of you heard some of this before, but pay attention because here's the thing, like, this is a ever evolving thought process because it's big, right? You're talking about billions and billions of bottles moved every year. You're talking about tens of thousands of producers, millions and millions of middlemen. Um, these bottles going in lots of places all over the world. So, and you're also dealing with climate, right? You're dealing with heat and humidity. So it's not an easy thing, and which is one of the reasons it hasn't been solved yet. Um, and blockchain really does help to solve it in a bunch of different ways. And part of that is by creating permissionless environments with specific rules and smart contracts. Part of that is your ability to create incentives to build a bottom up network. Um, but let me talk about it in kind of these are let's say three phases. So phase one is what we call our simple phase, right? In the simple phase, there's really only three kinds of provenance or three grades of provenance. So there's and that's all really linked to the custodian of the bottle. So the initial custodian is the winemaker. That's the best provenance. Then there's another layer underneath that which we call trusted custody, and that is either a bonded warehouse, or we've now found out that also auction houses, and it's really anyone that's subject to audit by the local tax authority. So both bonded warehouses and auction houses, for in most jurisdictions, are subject to audit by the local tax authority. So because of that, you can feel pretty confident that if somebody says that the bottle is there, that it's there, and that it can be traced all the way back to the winemaker. And then the third layer is private cellar, and that's anything else, right? So that's a restaurant, a wine shop, an importer, anything that's not any warehouse that isn't bonded, or that isn't either bonded or owned by a winery. So that's the first phase, right? Very simple. And what's nice about that is with a digital cork, you're tracking both ownership and custody. So on the custody side, you can give those custodians permission to update how the custody is shown on that digital cork, right? How it's who the custodian is in the metadata for the digital cork. So that's kind of cool, right? Like, so if the winery sends the wine from the winery to a bonded warehouse, the winery can update the custody by itself without you having to do it, right? Which means that like the responsible party can do it. It's really an interesting kind of very very cool thing that the blockchain can do. So that's number one. Number two, the second phase is what kind of what we think is the global dVIN, right? So that's what we're working on Red Byte with. That's you put an RFID reader or an RFID sticker on every bottle, and an RFID reader where you incentivize putting RFID readers throughout the supply chain, from the wineries to the warehouses to the importers to restaurants to wine shops. Everyone can install a cheap reader that tracks both temperature and humidity and bottles going in and out, and then that all gets recorded on the blockchain, so you can actually trace a bottle all the way from the winery all the way to the consumer, right? So that's also pretty cool. That's the deepen phase. That's kind of phase two. And then phase three, and that's tracking custody, right? So you're tracking physical custody of the wine. And then phase three is kind of what we call DeFi. It's not really even DeFi anymore. It's just using digital currency to transact the wine, right? So you're now with an RFID reader, you're tracking the physical bottle as it goes from the winery to the negociant to the importer to the distributor to the wine shop, right? But the if you can take the supply chain and put it on chain for using digital US dollars or digital euros, then what happens is every transaction, so the ownership now is all on chain, right? So it goes from the winery to the negociant to the importer to the distributor to the merchant, and now you're tracking both the wine, the physical bottle, as it goes through that process, and you're tracking the ownership as it goes through that process. And those two things aren't necessarily the same, right? The owner doesn't necessarily have custody of the wine. And in fact, all the way through that supply chain, usually that's different. But if you're tracking both of those things on chain, and there's real benefits to both, and we can talk about that in the future. But if you're tracking both custody and ownership on chain, then that really perfects provenance. So after stage three. So first it's the the three levels. Stage two is tracking custody. Stage three is tracking ownership. Once that's all done, you're really able to perfect provenance. Hopefully that was helpful. If anyone has any further questions, let me know.
No, that was very in depth, very good. And there's articles about this. If you want to do some deep reading, Dave puts out articles every Sunday on our on Medium, and that's news.dvinlabs.com. And there's like in-depth articles about kind of every piece of that broken down. So check that out as well. Next question, we're gonna jump around a little bit. What does a Club dVIN membership actually unlock? Is it just wine, or is it more than that? So I'm gonna take that one.
You take that one.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, a Club dVIN membership. There's two different tiers of membership. The club is amazing. It's the number one benefit. I suppose it depends on what you're looking for. In my opinion, the number one benefit is the wine offers. So we put out, it's 3 or 4 wine drops that we do per month. So I think we're ramping up to do one a week at this point. And these are all wines that are old library releases or just super hard to find wines at really, really good prices. So we're talking about wines with perfect provenance. So like Dave was just talking about, all of these wines come direct from the producer. They come with a digital cork attached to them. You connect them to your digital cellar, so you've got your kind of wine collection in the dVIN app, and it's a wine a week. We're always sold out, so it's been really interesting. It's been really cool. We've put out some incredible wines. A couple of weeks ago, we did a Mouton Rothschild for, I think it was 27 or 30% under what you'd find it for anywhere else. So those are the kind of deals that we put out for wine. The other benefit is international experiences. So we do kind of 4 major events per year. The one that we're doing next is another Bhutan trip. So we did the very first harvest in Bhutan last year. And this year we're going back together with Real Vision's RVIP community. And we're kind of doing a joint event. It's going to be awesome. We're going to go and see all the vineyards and do some harvesting and taste some of the wines, because there are actually wines now because we harvested already. And yeah, so there's some pretty interesting things. You'll be able to taste wines in, I think, Bhutan's first wine bar. Bhutan never made wine before, so it's the first real wine bar. And yeah, so that's gonna be really fun. So benefits, international experiences. We do really cool things with, wineries all over the world and wine partners all over the world, but it's really high-end kind of white glove service concierge events. Then we also have a white glove service concierge. So if you're in the top tier of membership, you get kind of one-on-one help with anything. Rodolfo, it runs that. So if any of you don't know Rodolfo, he's kind of like our secret weapon when it comes to wine sourcing, and he's connected to kind of everybody everywhere. And if you're going to Bordeaux and you message us and say, hey, I'm going to be in Bordeaux on these dates and I need a hookup, we'll take care of kind of putting together some really exclusive, kind of impossible to do things while you're in Bordeaux, for example, but anywhere you're going. So that's really cool. Another one of the benefits is AI, but we're going to talk about that. And we're going to ask Dave what he's the most excited about with Bacchus in a minute. But AI is one of the things that comes with your Club dVIN membership. And yeah, I think it's really wine forward. I know everybody who's in our club and has been following our journey for the last 4 years has been like, wow, you guys are, you launched a token and we're talking about all of these things with wine trading and collateralization and all of these kind of big plays in terms of the infrastructure of the wine industry. But Club dVIN has just been there from the beginning, and it's kind of it's the proof for all of it. So it's been really cool to see how we've got a small membership, global, and to see how everyone's been enjoying that kind of white glove exclusive kind of completely wine forward part of what we're building at dVIN.
It's pretty exciting. I mean, look, what I always tell people is you get like access to cool tech, but then also because we keep doing all of these great pilots with wineries, we're giving them access to cool tech, and so they're giving us cool stuff like discounts on wine and like pretty big discounts on like wine from the library that is very hard to get and experiences that are impossible to get. So because we're doing cool stuff with wineries, we can pass that the cool stuff that they want to give us along to our members. So it's pretty exclusive and pretty great stuff. But I always say on top of that, it's like great pricing on investment grade wine and the ability to trade that wine. Really cool and informative virtual events that will teach you everything you want to know, glow up your wine life. Once in a lifetime, like the kinds of in real life wine events that most people don't get to do, right? Like because of our access in the wine world, we can do things like going to Bhutan that like nobody gets to do. So I think that's really cool. And then access to Bacchus and the concierge service. It's a really big glow up of your wine life. So it's
I just like when
we
Dave says
we
glow
haven't
up.
really heard anybody say that it wasn't worth it. So
Yeah.
most people are pretty excited
Yeah. Okay, so we are like getting close to time. So I'm gonna
already. Oh my god.
yeah.
Okay, what else we got? We got
Okay.
one more question.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go with what part of Bacchus are you most excited to see evolve in the next 6 months?
So
Bacchus being
the
our AI.
thing, yeah. So the thing that I'm most excited about is voice, and I know that it sounds weird, but I've started like I use ChatGPT and I use Gemini quite a bit. I'm starting to use Perplexity more, and what I've found is that the voice input or the not even the voice, like the chat, is just really good. Like it's so it just it uh, you know it's faster, it's better. It's like it's more like having a conversation. And we always thought um, of Bacchus as like your wine guy, right? Like the guy who works at Wine Exchange in Orange County that would call me on the phone and say, "Hey, we've got this in," or I call him and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to a wine dinner, and what should I take?" Or, "Hey, I want to do this really cool blind tasting. Can you help me find 3 bottles for it?" And Bacchus is now it's now that, but like for typing. Um, I think once we add the voice, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, okay, so I'm in my cellar. I've got 50 bottles, 60 bottles in my cellar. Like, how do I put them into Bacchus so that Bacchus knows my portfolio? And I was like, well, you can, you know, take pictures of the bottles. You can line the bottles up and take pictures of like 6 of the bottles at a time. You can upload a CSV file. And he's like, oh, okay. Like that sounded like a mess. I'm like, or pretty soon you can just turn on the voice and you can go into your cellar and just say, okay, I got a bottle of this and I got a bottle of this. And you can just like talk to Bacchus and tell Bacchus what you have. And while you're doing that, Bacchus is telling you about that wine. And like that just sounds to me like a really, really amazing tool. So that's the thing that I'm most excited about coming is voice is or let's call it conversation mode. And I think that's coming soon, or at least that tells me it's
Nice.
coming soon. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Um, I think we've got to hold on a second here. Da, da, da. Just want to make sure. First growth Bordeaux below market question mark. Yes. We did a podcast about that with Jane Anson. We did a whole Bordeaux series actually. We had Jane on, and then we had Saeed, who is fantastic negociant, and he's kind of also one of the guys behind a lot of our wine drop wines. But I think if you really want to find out about the Bordeaux market right now, you need to listen to the podcast episode that we did with Jane Anson.
100%.
I don't know what part of this question is like. It says first growth Bordeaux below market. Interesting though. I'm curious about on-chain proof of allocation. So two different things. Bordeaux below market. Yes, it's true. There have been price drops to like down to like 30% down from the previous year. We dug into on Premier. And I think we it's like a market reset, and I think that
Yeah.
it was coming. It was time. But yeah, listen to the episode. You'll get lots of info on that. We're 4 minutes out. On chain proof of allocation. Do you want to dig into that in 2 minutes or less, Dave?
Well, I mean that's kind of what we talked about earlier, right? Like proof of allocate. You mean are we talking about allocation tokens, or are they talking
I
about
assume this is
provenance?
more about allocation tokens because we already kind of covered the rest. So I assume this is about our release of allocation tokens. And if
Yeah. So allocation token allocate. So if you had a wine allocation up until today, that's that's like a social contract between you and a winemaker where that winemaker says, okay, you're on my allocation list, I'm going to give you 6 bottles for a year. But it's less of a contract and more of a pinky promise, right? And
oh yeah,
then if you decide you don't want it anymore, or let's say you don't order 1 year, then the winemaker could just take away your allocation and give it to somebody else. And that's fine. Like, that's okay. Winemakers should be in charge of it. It's their wine. But I think that there could be a better solution, and that's why how we came up with allocation tokens. Which so allocation tokens do two things for the consumer, for the wine lover. It's a contract, right? It says if you have this token, you are um, you're obliged. You have a right to X number of bottles every vintage, and if that wine is scarce, then that token becomes valuable, and then you can sell that. If you don't want the wine anymore, you can sell it to somebody else, right? And that's that. So it becomes an asset. So it's good for the consumer in that way. But it's also good for the winemaker because if the winemaker has given out these allocation tokens, then the winemaker like makes money from the allocation tokens. And it's a way for a winemaker with a new project or a new wine, if they want to offer allocations in that new wine, to be able to basically fund that project in advance by selling the allocation tokens. And so like that's a pretty cool thing. We did that with Tony Parker. We did that with Carmelo Anthony. We did that with Over the Line in Australia. And so we think that it's a really interesting model, and we're working on kind of expanding it. But it's a tool for winemakers.
Awesome. Okay. We are at time and I have a hard stop. I have another call in a minute.
Me
But I
too.
think this was good. We're going to do it again in 2 weeks. This is, remember, put your questions in on socials, DM us, email us, wherever you want to send us your questions. We're kind of everywhere. We're on every platform, except for
No
Discord
sound
now.
effects. No
So
sound effects, Jana.
no, I'm not logged in as the host. I haven't been getting the host link. I don't know. I'm sorry to let you down, but if I clap alone, it's not right. It's not
It's
right.
not the same.
Thanks everybody for
Thank you.
tuning in, and remember to send in your questions for the next one. Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thanks
Dave.
everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.